Hey everybody, my name is Brett. I'm the director for Zealand Recreation, and I have some updates for you guys on the policies we have for COVID-19 for our spring sports programs, which is in baseball, softball, and lacrosse. So this video is for our volunteer coaches. Thanks for coaching this season. And please know that all I'm going to go over here could change at any minute. We're kind of at the mercy of the MDHHS. So just know that these are the policies for now and they could change. But thanks for watching. And if you have any questions after watching this, feel free to reach out to Kelly Koss or Brandon LaRosa, our Little League president, and Kelly Koss, our youth sports coordinator. I'm going to share my screen really quick, go over these policies, and then we'll get you out of here. So these are our spring youth sports policies. So just know that you all are required to watch this video right here prior to the start of the season and confirm you watched it by clicking here. All coaches, head and assistant coaches, prior to each practice and game must take this health screening test to ensure that you are healthy prior to each practice and game. Number three, this is the latest news. Starting April 12, this is after spring break, we are required to give 13-year-olds plus COVID antigen tests prior to each practice and game. This is for people who are 13 years old or older as of March 29. So if you turn 13, if you have a kid in your team who's 12 right now and turns 13, and anytime after March 29, they're not required to do this. This is based on those that are 13 as of March 29 or older. They will be required to complete an antigen test once per week. We will be releasing those protocols as soon as they're finalized. They are not finalized yet. Coaches will not be responsible to do this. This will not be under your responsibility. How we're doing this, we're not 100% sure yet. We're still working with ZPS Athletics and ZPS administration on finalizing our plan for how we're going to offer this to 13-year-olds plus and how they're going to get that done. But just know that is going to be a requirement for all 13-year-olds and older. I think we have one girls lacrosse player who falls into that category, and then we have a bunch of kids in baseball in the 50, 70 in juniors levels that have that age level. Softball, we don't have any. So just know 12 and under are not required to do that. 13 plus as of March 29 will be required to do that. We will release protocols soon that will begin after spring break on April 12th. COVID-19 kits. They will be in sheds. Each coach will have to get access to that. In that COVID-19 kit is a no-touch thermometer, spray bottles of bleach and towels, gloves, hand sanitizer, and rosters, which we'll talk about in just a second. Prior to each practice and game, here's what you're required to do. You need to set up a check-in area. That could be the entrance to the field. That could be at the corner of the field. You can set a cone down. Doesn't matter what it is, but you have to have a clear area for all parents to escort their children to do this check-in process. Parents must escort their child through that check-in process. The reason for that is we don't want a parent to just drop the kid off and leave, because if that kid doesn't pass the temperature check, mom and dad will have to come right back. So they must escort the child through the check-in process, be with them as they go through the check-in process. Once the child passes the check-in process, then the parent or guardian can leave. For the check-in process, what you do is you give each kid a temperature check. Anybody that has a temperature of 100.4 or higher cannot participate that day. Anybody with 100.3 or lower is good to go. If they do have 100.4 or higher, you have to send them home that day. Then you have to inform Zealand Rex, that'd be Kelly in the lacrosse world, actually be Kelly Koss for lacrosse, baseball, and softball, of the situation, and Kelly will take it from there and communicate with the parent directly. Then you also do a symptom check where you ask them if they have any symptoms or if they've been in contact with anyone with COVID in the last 14 days. If they say no to both of those, they're good to go. If they say yes to either of those, it's just as if they had a high temperature check. They can't practice that day. You inform Kelly of the situation, and Kelly will communicate with the parents from there. If anybody tests high on temperature or has any symptoms or has been in contact with anybody with COVID in the last 14 days, they cannot come back to practice or a game until Kelly gives you the thumbs up. So just be aware of that. Contact tracing. Just know this is required to help us. If there is a COVID outbreak or a positive case, we need to know who was within 6 feet of that person, who was at practice. So you need to take daily attendance at each of your practices. We're going to do that in two different ways. Baseball and softball, Brandon LaRosa, the Zealand Little League president, will be providing an electronic version for coaches to do this, which he will be coaching you on how to do that. Lacrosse, you'll be getting hard copy rosters with daily attendance boxes to check for each practice and for each game. Please know you must do that every single time, because any moment Kelly or I or Brandon could call you and say, hey, who was at your practice on this date, or who was at your game on this date? And we need to have an exact amount of people and the exact people that were there, because we don't want to quarantine those that weren't there. And we do need to quarantine those that were there. So it's very important that you do that every single day and keep those for your records until the end of the season. Face coverings for lacrosse. Participants and coaches are required to wear them at all times. Spectators as well. There is no exception. Coaches, kids, spectators, everybody wears masks at all times for lacrosse. The one exception for lacrosse, as written here, is participants are allowed to wear plastic shields on their face masks to meet this requirement if they're desired, similar to how we did that for football. There's an example linked here if you're interested to look at that. For baseball and softball, participants, face masks are not required while actively involved in the game or a practice drill. Face masks are required when a participant is not actively involved in the game or a practice drill. So for instance, on the bench, in the dugout, between practice drills and things like that. So masks go on when you're not ever in the game or in a drill. Masks can come down as soon as you're going into the game or actively involved in a drill. Coaches and spectators, there's no exception. You are wearing masks at all times without exception. Social distancing, do your best to social distance kids as much as you possibly can whenever they're not actively involved in their practice or drill. Spectators at games, this could change, but as of right now, there's no limit. There is technically a limit of 1,000, according to the MDHHS, for outdoor events. We never get anywhere close to that for a baseball, softball, or lacrosse practice or a game. So we have no limit to spectators right now for our outdoor sports events. Face masks are required for spectators at all times for 5-year-olds plus. And we are asking that spectators maintain social distancing from those outside their household in the bleachers and sitting in their lawn chairs and things like that. At the end of each practice and game, here's your protocol that you follow. Don't leave until all children are picked up by the parent or guardian. That's not just for COVID, that's all the time, obviously. Sanitize all shared equipment with the equipment that we're giving you in your COVID kit. So everything that may have been used that was shared needs to be sanitized. Put away all the equipment and leave this space cleaner than it was when you arrived. If you do have some type of positive case or a quarantine or a contact tracing or a symptom or something like that goes on, just in general, if anything comes up COVID on your team that you become aware of, first thing you do is contact Kelly Koss immediately. Second thing you do is direct the parent to Kelly Koss immediately as well. So both you and the parent should be contacting Kelly with the situation. Then you tell the parent and the participant they cannot come to practice or games anymore until Zeeland Rec has given them the approval to do so. So you as a coach really don't have a whole lot to do with COVID this year besides the check-in process and the stuff we just went through. You're not responsible for figuring out how long a kid is in quarantine, who goes in quarantine, who's in, who's out. As soon as COVID comes on your radar, you pass it on to Kelly, and then Kelly and I will handle it from there. That doesn't fall under your responsibility. You guys will have enough to think about this. Thanks again for coaching. We really appreciate it. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you have any questions after watching this, feel free to contact Kelly Koss in the lacrosse world or Brandon LaRosa in the baseball and softball world. Hope you have a great season. Thank you.